Hello everyone, I'm Shayna from 8H, and in this video I'm going to do a storytelling of the story that I created titled The Brave Violinist. Let's get started. In a town called Goldston lives a young boy who loves to play the violin named Mura. The sound from the strings being fiddled, fingers swiping the bow, delivering the waves of sound, made him deeply fascinated. And every day he practiced, he was very, very passionate to become a violinist one day. Today is the last PE lesson. We're going to play basketball for the final test score, said the PE teacher. In the case of playing basketball, it'll only get Mura hesitating and thinking that he isn't capable. So, the basketball match was divided into several groups, and Mura got the last one. As the countdown continues ticking, he trembled in nervousness and sweat until it was finally his turn to play. Everything went normal at first, but as he worries too much, he hesitated himself to the point where he made a big mistake. He injured his hands. He was later brought to the hospital to do an x-ray on his wrist. Unfortunately, the doctor told him that the ligaments on his wrist and finger were ripped apart badly. Mura felt like living in a nightmare, afraid, thinking that he won't be able to play the violin anymore again. It was afternoon. Dragging his feet across the floor with his violin on his back as if a wrecking ball is tied onto his feet. Mura had just come back from school. He locked himself in his room and sat while staring at nothing. Then a knock could be heard on his door. Mura, come out. Let's take care of your hands, said Alaska, his older sister. Mura only replied with a sigh, unwilling to come out. Alaska continued. Mama had also prepared some of her favorite cookies downstairs, so please come out. Look, I know what you're feeling right now. You feel hopeless upon your dream. This reality is realistically hitting, but have you ever considered to try yourself once again? Nothing is impossible, they say. All of a sudden, Mama screamed with her all might. Strangely, when Mura and Alaska went to check, all they could see was an empty living room, accompanied by the loud bang of thunder. Both of them went into mute, and Alaska told Mura, "You'll go check in front and I'll check the back." While holding his breath, Mura steadily walked into the kitchen with his violin bow. At first, he heard faint taps of walking, and then a sudden running. It turns out that the sounds were coming from the back, which is where Alaska is. He ran as hard as he could, but Alaska was already gone. Filled with anxious question marks on his face, and gazing at the flying specks of dust, he could do nothing. Out of nowhere, a black dark mist crept out of the ceiling and captured him as fast as a flap of a hummingbird. As he opened his eyes, he was already in another misty world filled with thousands of other people. Soon after, he found Mama and Alaska shouting his name, and relieved, he reunited with them. Suddenly comes a loud bang. Listen, humans, I, Caligo, shall enjoy a game full of jollification, said the evil spirit, The darkness then slowly spread amongst the people and triggered them into immediate sleep. It reminds them of their biggest, scariest, and deepest fear. As for Mura, he dreamed of himself being desperately unable to play the violin again. Only those who have the great consciousness can escape from this nightmare. Mura was devastatingly hopeless at the time, but he still has a disbelief upon finishing his love for the violin. And it grew bigger and bigger, and he had woken himself up. He looked around, only to find that everyone's asleep with screaming noises. He tried to wake Mama and Alaska up, but it was useless. They were deep in the deepest fear. Mura was the only one who wasn't asleep. Clueless amid of sleeping bodies, Mura had no idea what he should do. Until a singer was singing her lungs out as she fears to lose her voice. And an orphan who kept humming the tones and pitch of his childhood song as he was traumatized by his past. As Mura observed Caligo, he thought, why did the Caligo groan when they sang? He thought deeply, trying to find out the weakness of Caligo. Then the light above his head turned on. He discovered that Caligo's weakness is music. I can play the violin. Wait, I can't because my hands. But I must save these people. Mura couldn't even place his violin under his neck. But he remembered what Alaska had told him, and that he strengthened his will. And there he goes, playing the violin. It was marvelous. The Caligo groaned and some people woke up. It weakens the darkness effect, Mura shouted. Sing! Everybody sing! He shouted again. Hence, everyone who was conscious sang harmoniously one by one, and more people were playing their music instruments, and some were even dancing. The Caligo got weaker and weaker. No, no! And within a poof, everyone came back to the real world. They were glad, especially Mura. Everyone got back to their own families and comforted each other for good. At last, Mama and Alaska reunited with Mura again. Touched, they were crying and proud at the same time. The end. I hope you guys enjoyed my story. Thank you for watching and goodbye!